Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. In the hunt for some lizard trinkets, Luther Harkon has stumbled upon the forces of chaos in the forests of Lustria. We'll have the Vampire Coast versus the Warriors of Chaos in this Warhammer World Championship matchup between Han Samurai and VM Dark Phoenix. We will have Han Samurai on the Vampire Coast as Dark Phoenix will be commanding Chaos. So for the Coast Army, we do have a bunch of zombies for the land mass, just pretty much just keeping that ground alive and well for all their flyers to do their thing up in the sky. We do also have a Vampire Fleet Captain of vampires going to be rolling in with Raised Dead Invocation, Power Stone, and Taunt for a nice little bit of extra slows. We do have a Lamprey's Revenge as well, the Rotting Promethean Guttery Mob's ROR, and these bad boys do have regeneration themselves. And on top of that, 120 armor. These things are very tough nut to crack, so they'll be able to last quite a long time. We also do have a Necrofex Colossus on one far flank, and up in the sky is going to be the Vampire Coast Air Force, led by Luther Harkon himself, who is going to be bringing Hornswoggle for even additional slows. So between the Hornswoggle and Taunt, plenty of control for the coast side, and then it is going to be deck droppers with handguns for the air squad. So a very strong build here in terms of like just kind of sniping potential, and that is one of the things that Chaos and Norska, pretty similar factions, do struggle against, is this very strong air squad. And in response to that, they are going to be bringing plenty of Marauder Horsemen. So he's going to be 4 Marauder Horsemen on the Chaos side in total, one of which is actually going to be the Horse Masters. So a little lighter. I would probably have gone more towards Horse Masters versus the Horsemen, but it is still plenty of skirmish cavalry to help kind of screen out all of these bats. But that Necrofex Colossus in the back is going to be a lot of trouble for these cavalry forces. But for the ground on the Chaos side, it is going to be the Mirror Guard on the far flank, and then the rest is going to be Forsaken across that front line, one of which is going to be the Demon Spew, who do have poison themselves. And all these guys, they have 85 armor, so they'll be able to tank some shots pretty well, and they are good damage dealers, so they'll be able to get through the zombie line pretty quickly. And then bringing the Mirror Guard as well, they have 100 armor, they have silver shields, and they have that speed, unlike the regular Chaos Warriors, to really keep up with the Forsaken rush, because they do have 38 speed and the Forsaken have 46, so they'll lag behind just a little bit, but overall they'll be able to keep pace, and having that high armor, good shield, very nice to be having, just kind of keeping that front line alive and well. For the rest of the monstrous units, it is going to be the Weird Spawn mixed in with 2 of the regular Chaos Spawn. These are going to be unbreakable, so they won't have to worry about that fear and terror of the Vampire Coast. And the Weird Spawn, they also do have a nice little bit of physical resist to boot, as well as armor sundering. So against those Lamprey's Revenge, they're going to be a very helpful unit to be bringing here, getting that armor center. So minus 30 armor, that still bring them down to 90, but that is still a lot better than 120. And for the Lord, it is going to be Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, riding forth upon his flaming steed. He is going to be rolling in with the Slayer of Kings, like his plus 75 armor piercing, plus 50% splash, and 75 base weapon damage. So that just makes him an absolute terror. So Luther does have to be very careful about him. But as long as the coast side is able to deal with all of the skirmish cav, Archaon's not going to be much of a threat with that many air units. It also has Burning Head and the Flaming Sword of Ruin, so some magical damage and fire damage, mostly for that magical damage in case there's going to be like sirens and stuff like that. Then the Flaming Sword, pair that with those Horsemen and Horse Masters, is going to really be able to whittle those guys down pretty quickly. Otherwise, that is going to be the armies, so let's get things underway, as Chaos is going to be charging forward, as all of the Vampire Coast Air Squad here is kind of just going right past all of the coast, or all of the Marauder Horsemen and Horse Masters. And these Horsemen and Horse Masters, they need to pull back right now, because if they stay back here, because all of these deck droppers with handguns, all they have to do, well, of course, I guess the coast is going to be looking at trying to get rid of the Necrofex Colossus, but still, they are almost completely sacrificing Archaon here. They have pulled back one of just the only Horse Master, Well, that Horsemaster has taken a lot of damage, one of the horsemen already routing, but this air squad is going to be such a major threat, and they have pretty much free reign to just kind of fly directly overhead of Archaon. And what are they going to do about it? He did have a Hornswoggle used on him earlier, but there's still going to be another taunt in that back pocket, so just drop a taunt onto Archaon, and this air squad is not going to be able to keep things. I think a little bit of friendly fire here. They were targeting those Forsaken, and I think that Breath Attack went through that deck droppers with handguns just a little bit, doing a little bit of damage to their own air squad. We are going to be getting a summon off on the other front, just kind of holding this line as long as possible. I mean, these Forsaken will make very quick work of all these zombies, the gunnery bombs, all of the polearms. The polearms, though, will actually trade pretty well into Chaos Spawn, considering they have essentially like no armor. The Weird Spawn will tank that just a little bit better, but here's going to be a nice burning head. Going to be going right through these deck drop or the zombie pirate deckhand mobs. Going to be pretty much taking them down to 0, and they are going to be disintegrating right off of that cast, and that is going to free up that space for the Forsaken to try and get into that Necrofex Colossus. And it is going to continue right on down, and it's going to be hitting another unit of zombie pirate deckhand mobs, doing a lot of damage to them. So a very nice cast. Their tail end was a little bit luckier than the rest, but now all of that air squad is just going to be flying overhead. Luther is trying to target down Archaon solely and specifically because that is the best target for him, because really what do the Chaos have? They don't have a strong enough ground to air to really deter this many air units, but the ground is quickly evaporating. The Lamprey's Revenge is like the only thing that's really holding. Oh, there's a ton of Weird Spawn left, or Weird Spawn, Chaos Spawn, but Archaon is probably one of the bigger threats here, and I still think that the coast side needs to kind of just fly directly overhead of Archaon and really just finish the job. They don't have too much to worry about. They are taking a little bit of damage in from these Horsemasters, Horsemen, so they could alternatively kind of just go and clean up the last of the range units for Chaos. But things out, I mean, the ground force is looking very strong for Chaos. I mean, all these Weird Spawn, the Chaos Spawn, they are all sitting at pretty much full health right now, and Coast is running out of tools to really deal with them. I mean, we do have the Necrofex Colossus, but it is getting surrounded by Forsaken, so they might want to try and peel off those Forsaken, but I mean, both sides have advantages on the field. And I think that the Coast, though, just isn't quite using their advantage to what they need, because they are kind of on a bit of a time crunch, because if soon as all of these ground units get taken out, because they can only have so many summons, these Lamprey's Revenge is starting to take a bit of damage themselves. It looks like we're getting another burning head, going to be going right through that summon that just went down, and it's going to be doing a lot of damage to that. Going to be clipping the Lamprey's Revenge a bit on top of that, and the Luther, though, is getting a little low in terms of his own ammunition. Doesn't have quite the reserves as what he used to, and Archaon has been able to tank that for the most part as that air squad. How about the rest of it sitting a little below 50%, but Archaon has pretty much been delegated to only being a spellcaster here, unable to really get engaged in that melee grind. We do have Taunt going down on these Forsaken. It is going to reduce the armor as well, so minus 30. Going to allow them to take a bit of extra damage, but that Necrofex Colossus is just going to continually get hounded by all of the ground units. It is going to get an invocation and a heck dropped on it, trying to heal it up as it tries to get a little bit of distance, and a single shot now at this point into these Forsaken will probably cause those guys to rout, and they might end up routing anyways. But all the horsemen continuing just to harass, but a little dive down onto Archaon. Archaon does pop the Slayer of Kings, though, so he is going to be able to hit back very strong, as, I mean, Luther is healing himself with that passive regen, but with that Mirror Guard in support, Luther does not want to be sticking around for any longer, and he is going to be pulling right up into the sky, and a beautiful shot in from the Necrofex, doing a lot of damage to those Mirror Guard, but still, I think that ammunition needs to be spent towards Archaon with all those deck droppers, because once that ammunition is gone, he is going to be able to put a major amount of hurt onto Luther, especially when he does have the assistance. Now, he doesn't have the healing that Luther does, but that ground presence for Chaos is just getting stronger and stronger by the second here. The last summon here is about to go down to all of the Weird Spawn, Chaos Spawn. It looks like we have a taunt, though, going to be dropped onto Archaon, reducing his speed, and those shots just going to be able to do a little bit extra more damage, and the volleys are doing very well. Coast still has the advantage in terms of the overall balance of power, but I still think Chaos has a fairly decent chance of pulling this one back, but losing Archaon is probably going to be the best bet for the Vampire Coast, and they are on just slivers of ammunition across the board. They need to make sure that they finish the job, but they are able to rout him off, as the last shot from Luther Harkon is going to be spent, and it looks like he is going to be trying to pursue or at least help this frontal engagement here. So Coast should be able to rout off the ground units, but they can't really allow Archaon to come back. They need to dedicate something. One of these bats, especially the one that doesn't have any ammunition left, should be able to escort Archaon off the field, because he still has Winds of Magic left, and that is not something that the coast side wants to be seeing. As Luther, though, is going to be just kind of swamping the ground, just trying to deal with these Chaos Bomb, but he is not the best at clearing out a lot of infantry. He is very much a duelist lord, a one-on-one with that ammunition. The Terrorgeist doesn't really have the best splash attack, so there is still a bunch of Chaos forces. So, I mean, if you take a look at the troop count, Chaos still has 193 left versus 62, and all of that 62, I mean, you have the Luther Harkon, you have the Vampire Fleet Captain, who is getting pretty low herself. She is on her crab, but I think the Weird Spawn is gone, so they don't have that Armor Sundering anymore, so it's going to be a lot harder for the Vampire Fleet Captain to get taken that damage, considering she does have 120 armor like those Lampreys Revenge, and these Forsaken are starting to rout off the field. Some more ammunition coming in for the Vampire Coast, as they do get a few of their last shots in before the bats do dive down. And if they can break the Mirror Guard, they actually probably can take down the Chaos Spawn. That monstrous units are probably going to struggle a little bit more against Luther Harkon. And the Luther Harkon, however, doesn't have that bonus versus large that like the Count's Terrorgeist do. It's just more of a direct damage dealing mount, and I do believe, and it looks like, yeah, Archaon is off the field completely, but it is down to this last little blob of units. The Vampire Fleet Captain and Luther Harkon just striving forward, and they do have the Terror will help against like the Mirror Guard. Actually, do the Mirror Guard? Yeah, Mirror Guard have immune to psychology as well, so that Terror does not help against them, but it will against like all the Horsemen. But the Horsemen have a bunch of ammunition. I don't think committing them to melee there was necessarily the right thing to do, and the bounce power shifts heavily into the coast's favor as more of these units are routing off the field. I really think those Horsemen had to use their ammunition instead of diving into melee. Forsaken are shattering across the board. It is down to just the Mirror Guard, Luther Harkon against the Chaos Spawn as well. And a unit is coming back here of Forsaken, and if Luther does kind of at least get a nice little attack into these guys, he should be able to break them pretty quickly, because these guys are not immune to psych. As I say that, they have that frenzy, so while their leadership is good, they do have it, but the Luther Harkon is going to get being dragged down. I think that Chaos might, I mean, if these Mirror, or those are the Forsaken, if the Mirror Guard are able to maintain, then I think that they'll be able to drag Luther down, because I was mentioning before, Luther Harkon is not good at dealing with a lot of infantry at a time, so it is going to be a slow drag through the ground as the last of the bats, though, and a nice little rear charge in from these guys might cause enough leadership drop in the Forsaken, the Forsaken here, or the Mirror Guard, if they time it just right as these guys get wavered, but it is still dead even. Balance power is slightly, but I mean, Luther Harkon carries a lot of that balance of power, and he is just trying to get into kind of out of the full surround as the bats dive in, and that is going to kind of allow him to pull back, but the Horsemen are back. They are going to be getting some shots into the sky as Luther just kind of returns around and dives back in, just trying to finish things off, but Chaos pulling ahead in that balance of power. The bats are about to completely disintegrate, and now Luther is going to stand alone. The Horsemen very wisely pulling out here, that they still do get terrified. They will be back, and they have plenty of ammunition, so they'll just be able to kind of pepper Luther Harkon. It's a very large target, pretty easy to hit, 80 armor, so they will be able to kind of pepper away at him. And yeah, both of the Chaos Spawn, or one of the Chaos Spawn, the other one has finally been dealt with, is unbreakable, so they will last to the bitter end. One of the Forsaken do end up routing, but man, these Mirror Guard, they just refuse to die as they just continue fighting against all odds, as they just continue just beating down on Luther as he is taking more and more damage. He is regenerating, but he is getting so very low, and that volley from the Horsemen I think is going to push that over the edge. And it looks like Chaos is going to be taking game one, pulling it back, and I think that is going to be our game one in the books, as Dark Phoenix takes that first game, so it'll be 1-0 Dark Phoenix after one. So let's take a look at that after battle report, update the scorecard as well, and then we'll go over the results for that first game. So for Chaos, the Weird Spawn, not really doing all too much damage themselves, but against like the Lamprey's Revenge, having that armor sundering definitely helped quite a bit. However, the rest of the Chaos Spawn, over 2,000 on these guys, 1,000 on them, lots of damage. The Horsemasters not really doing all too great. Horsemen doing decent damage. One of them did all right. I think that was the one that was around in the end. But really, I mean, normally these Horsemen, Horsemasters are really the way to go for Chaos. I mean, also seeing Sigval, it's pretty popular as well, considering he does have that high armor, silver shield, perfect vigor, all that good stuff. But Archaon is a major force, and he did get 2k in total value. But he is rather expensive, and he's mostly a duelist, so you often are going to lose out on him because you have to keep him safe at like all costs. And I think after losing pretty much all the counters to the bats, I think had they kept them inside like all the Chaos Spawn and stuff like that, the shots would have been a lot harder to get into Archaon, and he would have been able to do some help on that front line as well. But instead, he was pretty much just running throughout that whole fight, and wasn't as big of an impact. But in the end, it didn't really matter to Chaos. I mean, some of the Forsaken getting 2,000, and the Mirror Guard as well getting 1,500, Demon Spew 750. So they did their job, really cleared out that ground force, and then once the ground force was gone, of course, once Luther had to stay in melee, he is a lot easier to bring down, even though that balance power was saying otherwise. If he's able to cycle charge, however, he can do a ton of damage to the infantry in that way. But when he's stuck in melee, he gets slowly grinded down bit by bit throughout the fight. But he did generate 2,800 in value still, so he was able to get some good value from him. And Parfleet Captain with those summons, unfortunately, was not able to last quite long enough. All of the ground units just not able to do a whole lot. Necrofex Colossus did rather well, getting 1,700. And then the Deck Droppers with handguns was really the bulk of this army. Almost all of them getting over 1,000, and the one that didn't was only at 980. So tons of value from the air squad, and then even Lambert's Revenge got over 1,000 as well. So some pretty good value from all of the ranged units for the Vampire Coast. But that is it for Game 1. We're going to roll right on into Game 2, and this is a best of 5 after all, so there is going to be plenty of more games to come. The men of the Empire rally around Volkmar the Grim for this Game 2 match between the Empire and the Vampire Counts, as Hand Samurai commands the forces of Sigmar against Dark Phoenix's Vampire Counts. So for the forces of the Empire, it is going to be very heavy in the infantry department, as the front line is going to be all spearmen across that front line, and they will be backed up by the Unbreakable Flagellants. 3 units of those can be spread out behind them. And then in the back is going to be a bunch of Halberdiers. I hesitate to say elite, but very strong, anti-large, armor-piercing, good against like the Cav, because generally you're going to be seeing Blood Knights here. That is a very common pick, because normally from the Empire side you expect to see Volkmar is probably the best lord here in this matchup, and then like Demis, for example, are another very common pick. So seeing Blood Knights is also common, so these Halberdiers will have some nice little targets to be getting some damage in. For the mobility, it is going to be Knights of the Blazing Sun and 1 unit of Empire Knights. Now that will overall be outgunned or outmatched by like the Blood Knights, for example. Knights of the Blazing Sun, since they don't have magical damage, they're not really going to be able to good against like any of the ethereal units that the Counts can bring. They're good against like potentially like Vargeist or whatever, but for the most part, and they also have some magic resist as well, and 100 armor, so it's not necessarily the worst unit in the world. But I think trading them out for maybe a Demi or something like that. For the rest of the forces, though, we do have some Free Company Militia, 2 units of those kind of in the center ranks for just a little bit of fire support, and especially against like just kind of keeping any potential flyers, and they do some good damage to infantry, to the cavalry as well, if they're able to stay nice and alive. And of course, the highlight is Volkmar the Grim. Probably his strongest matchup is against the Counts, and he is going to be rolling in with the Grand Soulfire Bombardment. We have the Grand Hammer of Sigmar, the Grand Shield of Faith, his Bound Banishment. We have the Jade Griffin as well, giving him that restoration. And then he does have, he is unbreakable when he is on that chariot to boot as well. For the rest of the hero squad, we do have a Witch Hunter, who does have magical damage when in melee and at ranged. So I'll help to kind of whittle down like any like Banshees, for example. He'll be able to pretty much deal with them very quickly if they are there. Or otherwise just kind of deal with any of the Cairn Wraith, Hex Wraith, something of that nature. And he does have Accusation as well, which reduces 30 armor, minus 24 melee defense, and minus 22 missile resist. So you pair that when those Free Company Militia are firing in, it makes their lack of good armor piercing, missile fire a little bit better, and then yeah, just reducing that missile resist in general, because like Blood Knights, they do have base missile resist with the banner of the Blood Keep. And then in the force, we also have a light wizard to boot as well, who has the net of Avantok. So pair all those abilities together, these 2 units of Free Company Militia can still get some nice damage in, and that will kind of guarantee the charge for those Empire Knights and the Knights of Blazing Sun. But for the Vampire Counts, it is going to be double Blood Knights for the mobility, and there is going to be some more Hex Wraith as well. But as I was saying before, the flag of the Blood Keep gives 22% missile resist, so that accusation completely negates that, so that is able to get some good shots in on them. And then there's some Cairn Wraiths as well, and these guys need to be very careful of Volkmar, because they will take a bunch of damage from a Soulfire or those Bound Banishments, so they need to be rather careful. But otherwise, that armor piercing will help against Demis, which is what the idea was, I'm pretty sure, because he is running with the 2 Blood Knights. And we have Heinrich Kemmler as well for the Lord, who is going to be coming in with his Krell summon, so that actually will be rather helpful against Volkmar. You do have to be rather conservative with that. You don't want to be using that too early, because Volkmar will just kind of run away, cackling on his War Chariot there. We have Undeath Resurgent, plus 16 leadership, 24 melee defense. Raised Dead. We have Van Hell's Dance Macabre, so it will help those Blood Knights trade better into... The idea is against Demis, they'll trade really well into them then. Invocation of the Heck as well, Course of Undeath, and the Master of the Dead. So it's some nice passive healing as well to those Blood Knights is very helpful. On the other side, you do see those Hex Wraiths, and there's actually the Feasters in the Dusk, the Crypt Ghouls ROR, as they do have stock themselves, so they'll be able to get into some nice position, trying to maybe get a little surprise. And these are actually the Chill Guys as well, so actually are going to swing over to these guys. So it is the ROR Hex Wraiths, and these guys do have that chilling aura, so they'll be able to kind of slow things down. And you bring these guys if you're kind of worried about like skirmish, because Counts can get skirmish pretty heavily, and with the Chill Guys, they'll be able to tank that damage really well, considering they are ethereal, so they have 75% physical resist, and that chilling aura will allow the rest of your units to really catch up to them, so minus 36% speed, and they have base 94, so that is very helpful in chasing down the skirmish cav. And then just take a little quick look at these Feasters of the Dusk before zooming on out to the rest of the Count's army, and it is going to be plenty of infantry, as we have zombies in that front line all the way across, some Skeleton Warriors, and then 1 unit of Graveguard with great weapons, and 1 more Crypt Ghoul as well. And Crypt Ghouls, they do quite well against state troops. They're able to really kind of chew through anything pretty quickly, just kind of get through into that back line, really why you bring them. Graveguard Encasers, any great swords, and then you have double White King, and they are going to be on horseback, and I do very much love seeing the White Kings on horseback. Both of the White Kings together on horse can actually beat down Volkmar. That is why I will almost always bring them. And of course, Scab Wraith as well is very nice, because casted together with both of the White Kings, these Scab Wraith can pretty much one-shot any unit of like ranged Empire forces. So like the Silver Bullets are a major threat. The Sterling's Revenge as well. Both of those units can pretty much get wiped out in one go. Now, the only thing that's really missing here, I think, from the Vampire Count army is some like either some bats or some dogs to help chase things off, because as it is, if you want to chase anything down, you have to use like the Blood Knights or the Chill Guys, and you don't really want to be doing that. Well, let's get things going, as there is going to be a Scab Wraith going down, and it is going to be completely whiffing these Free Company Militia, not even taking any damage there. So probably a little too quick on using that. Need to be a little bit more cautious using it, waiting until things are nice and stationary, because it's a very hard ability to dodge. So the Empire, though, is going to be kind of charging forward with their Flagellants, and the Flagellants are going to make quick work of pretty much everything that isn't the Graveguard. I don't think the Skeleton Warriors aren't going to be able to do much, and I think with the Crypt Ghouls, that might be a little bit more of an even trade, but these Flagellants should be able to beat down most of this front line, and these Blood Knights really do need to try and cycle through, and here is a nice Scab right there. Just look at how much damage it did. 50% of these Spearman health off of that single cast, and now both of those White Kings going to be looking for Volkmar, trying to get on top of him, do as much damage as they can. But we do have these Knights of Blazing Sun assisting the front line of the Flagellants, getting some nice charges through their own line, getting some good work there, as the Graveguard and the rest of the Counts getting a little bit of surround off as the Feasters of the Dust looking to get in. And here is that net of Amantok dropping down. Cairn Wraith Blood Knights all caught together. Accusation is down on these Blood Knights, so they'll be taking more missile damage. They'll take more damage from the charge of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. And on top of that, we also have that Bound Banishment ripping through, and these Blood Knights are so low they need a heal as soon as possible. But right now, they are already at 50% health. All of these chill guys have gotten a nice charge into the back. And now that they've seen that first banishment off, though, these chill guys will have some nice free reign to do what they like as long as they stay away from Volkmar. But Volkmar just giving all of his buffs, and it looks like he's dropping that Grand Soulfire right on top of those Cairn Wraiths. And you just see that health bar just get nuked into oblivion right there, taking about a quarter of their HP off on that one. Wasn't super tightly blobbed, but still a bunch of damage going their way. And now he's going to be making his attention towards those chill guys. And the front line is going very well for the Empire, able to break down pretty much all of these units. And these Graveguard are just kind of sitting off into the wing here. They need to be really kind of trying to commit, shut down these ranged units, and just kind of try and whittle down the Empire forces as the Blood Knights do charge through, but they are charging straight into halberds, though they do get a summon of zombies down. But a nice Scav Wraith as well, going to be going through these halberdiers. But so far, things are looking pretty good for the Empire. Balance power is still dead even. Frontline did go rather well for them, able to really hold back the vampire counts. And then the Cav engagements have gone pretty well on top of that to boot. Heinrich Handler has taken a bunch of damage as that Witch Hunter just getting some nice shots in. Another net of Ammontok just holding down all of these units, and these Blood Knights just getting dragged down, especially with all these halberds mixed in. They are just taking a lot more damage than they would like to be taken. They just need to kind of try and work their way into the backline, break the rest of the units, because really these halberds, they will last pretty long, and they definitely don't want to be just staying engaged with them. The Blood Knights need to kind of pull out, get some other attacks in, because they need to stay alive as well, as an overcasted Invocation goes down, healing up these Blood Knights, doing a nice little bit of healing there. And Krell has already been summoned. I think that is too early to be using Krell here. He does have Fear Terror. He is actually the only terror source on the field right now for the counts, and they needed to be conservative, because right now all the Empire needs to do is just avoid Krell until he wears off. Now that is going to be 2 minutes before Krell does wear off completely, but really, Volkmar just stays away from him. The rest of the Knights of Light and Sun stay away, and what's he going to do? Just attack some halberds. That is going to be a very nice trade-off for the Empire if they can allow Krell to just get bogged down in infantry, and that is what they're going to be trying to do. Chill guys are still sitting pretty healthy. The Cairn Wraiths are pretty much at their healing cap, so they have gotten quite a bit of heals, but still, they're going to be charging in, and Volkmar is right here, though Krell is also there, but Krell is still engaged with all of these units, but as Volkmar just pushes right on through, getting on top of these Cairn Wraiths and dropping a Soulfire Bombardment right on top of them, and that is going to just finish them off outright, and down they shall go, disintegrating, I am almost certain, and there they are, with a banishment as well, going right through these Graveguard, and now the Empire, I think, is sitting in a very commanding position, because Volkmar is very healthy. A White King, there's one there. The other White King is actually pretty low itself, and if both of the White Kings were healthy, maybe they would still have some good tools to deal with Volkmar. But now, with all of their damage that the White King's taken, another Scab Wraith going down, doing a nice bit of damage to Flagellants. But Volkmar is just hounding Kemmler, who is at his healing cap as well, and Blood Knights are approaching there, so all of this healing, the passive healing from Kemmler is very nice to have, but it is reaching its limit. And Volkmar is still sitting fresh as a daisy, and we can take a quick look at his healing cap. He still has over 2,000 health to heal, and it is going to be very hard for the counts, I think, to bring him down. Balance power shifting more and more into the Empire's favor. Chill guys really are going to have to be very careful, but they need to also get into the back line, shut down the Free Company Militia and that Witch Hunter, but they are going to getting a nice shots into the White King as it charges forward, and I think that is going to be about it for that White King, especially with these Knights of Blazing Sun. Really going to be getting a nice surround off on this, and that White King is going to fall. We are getting another summon, though, from the Counts, dropping on in, just completely bogging down as much infantry as possible. There is still so much infantry left for the Empire as well. Flagellants, Spearmen, Halberdiers, all those units, and they're all going to trade pretty decently into those Blood Knights, and I just don't think the Counts have it in them to bring this one back. Volkmar's too healthy, too many anti-large units left on the field, and we still have the Light Wizard is still alive, has some more nets for some more control. I just don't think the Counts have any way back into this fight. They would have to play it like almost perfectly with those Blood Knights. Blood Knights here are just completely surrounded though, so that's not going to be happening anytime soon. These Blood Knights not going to be escaping this engagement. They're going to be going down, and Volkmar is just going to continually cycle through the last of the units for the Counts, and the Empire is going to be taking this game 2 as Hand Samurai will be taking the series back 1-1 before we get into the third game here. And at this point, it is only a matter of time. Volkmar is just going to continue wheeling around the battlefield, dropping another Soulfire, but the Hex-Wraiths are, or the Chill Guys are going to be pulling right on back. One of them does get a little clipped, but yeah, the Cavalry Corps for the Vampire Counts just is not strong enough left. They actually were able to break these Knights of Blazing Sun and these Empire Knights, but still, they are going to be dropping, and I think that is going to be just about game for this battle. Volkmar staying alive, but yeah, this is going to be GG. Army losses do hit, and the Counts do finally disintegrate. Heinrich Kemmler disintegrating himself. The Necromancer will raise no more dead today, as the forces of Sigmar are victorious. So let's take a look at that after battle report, and we'll update the scorecard as well. So for the Vampire Counts, Chill Guys look about 900. The Blood Knights themselves got about 1,700. But again, these guys are like 1,700 costing units, and they just weren't able to get any good value. And they really didn't have any good targets. I mean, what are you going to fight? Your Halberd Spearmen, Flagellants don't really generate that much, and you only had Empire Knights and Knights of Blazing Sun, who, I mean, between the two of them, did much better than the Blood Knights did, getting 1,100 and almost 1,000 on the Empire Knights. Rest of the forces, Cairn Wraiths, well, decent idea. They are just such a risky pick, as are the Chill Guys, because there's just so many good sources of magic damage from the Empire. You have like Silver Bullets, you have Volkmar is really the biggest one, and you can also be seeing a Wild Mage of Fire in there as well. Crypt Ghouls did okay, but I mean, yeah, nothing really generated a whole lot of value. Those Flagellants did so well in that front line, just roasting through, or just killing all of these zombies. The two White Kings did do well themselves, getting 800 and almost 1,000. And I think they just need to stay alive, because really they are, I think, the Count's better answers to Volkmar. I mean, you have Terrorgeists and stuff like that, which are armor-piercing bonus versus large. But really, both of these White Kings, for their costs on horseback, just trade so well into Volkmar. That's why I love seeing them. But they do have to stay healthy to be able to get those good engagements. And then Heinrich, he did get a lot of healing down. So a lot of units did hit their healing cap. So we're going to be seeing probably a lot of value from the Empire forces, as both of the Free Country Militia, nothing too ridiculous, but I mean, all of these Flagellants got a ton of kills. Well, the value necessarily wasn't there. It was just pretty much zombie skeletons for the most part. The Halberdiers in that backline, these guys got 1,200, 900 on those guys, and then over 1,000 on them. So just that Halberd just traded so very well, able to just drag down all of those Blood Knights. And then Volkmar himself getting over 3k in total value, so doing some decent work on that end. But overall, yeah, it was still pretty good fun match there. Just seeing all of the magic going off on the Empire side. But yeah, I still think, yeah, the Counts needed some bats are so useful here. But otherwise, I mean, there wasn't anything like too outlandish. Maybe the Cairn Wraiths and Chill Guys aren't really the best pick. But yeah, just at least some bats and something like that. But I do, and then the Empire really kind of expecting the meta build being those Blood Knights and really countering that pretty well with those Halberds. So very well played on that side. But that is it for game 2, and now it is going to be into game 3. Series is tied 1-1, but there is still more matches played because it is best of 5. Just a reminder for that. Well, let's get on into the next one. The Skaven skitter their way into game 3, and they're bringing some true abominations to the field, as this Hell Pit is going to be striding forth to meet the Greenskins, as Hand Samurai commands the Skaven. Dark Phoenix will be on the Greenskin side of things. So for the Skaven, it is pretty much going to be a rush for these guys. We do have some Gutter Runners on the flank, with one of which being that Poison, and then the front line is just going to be some Skaven Slaves backed up by some Clan Rats, and the center rank is going to be, of course, that Hell Pit Abomination, regenerating monster with that Fear, Terror, all those good things. Good against the Greenskins. They're just kind of, their general low leadership will be able to get some nice terror routes in there, and especially good against kind of dealing with like Stone Trolls, getting that terror on, but not necessarily in a one-on-one with Stone Trolls, because a nice surround off on the hell pit by stone trolls will still be able to bring that hell pit down, but they have plenty of mass themselves to kind of make sure that doesn't happen, as they do have 3 rat ogres in that back line. For the Lord, it is going to be actually 4 rat ogres. It is going to be a Grey Seer of Plague on top of its belt, so going to have some very nice base leadership on top of there, kind of counteracting that low leadership when it is on foot. But it does have the bound scorch ability with the Unholy Clamor, and then we have the dreaded 13th, Vermintide, and Arcane Conduit. So Dreaded 13th is a very strong explosion spell, which does give some nice storm vermin, and I guess Overcast is going to be giving it the sword and boards, though it is going to be the same cost as the regular version of the spell, and no miscast as on top of that to boot. For the 2 heroes, we do have an Assassin coming in with Rival Hide Talisman and Assassin's Trophy, so Rival Hide does give that minus 40 to melee attack and an AoE, and Assassin's Trophy minus 24 melee defense and melee attack for any Lord or hero. And then we have the Warlock Engineer rolling in with just the armor, the Warpstone armor, which is a Mortis Engine effect, draining down the opponents. So really looking for just that big melee rush on the Skaven side, as they have plenty of mass, and they also do have some wolf rats with poison to boot on top of that. But for the greenskins, we do have Orc Boar Boys, 2 units of those, and then we're going to have some Night Goblin Squig Hoppers as well. They have bonus versus infantry, armor piercing, and poison. Poison's really kind of the big thing, but the highlight, we're going to get to that one first and foremost, is the Big Un. The Big Un, a collection of just magics keeping this thing together. Does have a nice little range ability. It has a ton of armor, and really banking on that because it has its own fear and terror, so that is also another nice little bit there. But it is a very expensive monster, and it isn't, so we'll see how it fares. I'm not necessarily going to be holding out on that. But we also do have a Goblin Great Shaman, and not going to be on the Arachnarok Spider, but instead going to be on a little wolf. So that's rather interesting, seeing these guys on any mount other than Arachnarok Spider, considering it's like it has such low armor. Its leadership isn't anything too great, and I just bring in Gork'll Fix-It though for a little speed reduction, and Vindictive Glare, which is a nice spell, but usually on the spider, it just provides such a much better angle to be casting that. Rest of the force, we have some Night Goblin Archers, throwing in with the Rusty Arrows, so they have some armor sundering for that. But then the infantry department is going to be, we have the Warlord's Boys, so the Night Goblins ROR, and they do have armor sundering themselves, some more Night Goblins, and then just more Night Goblins for the front line. These is going to be the 8-peak loonies, so they do have Unbreakable, they have their Fanatics, and then we have some more Night Goblins across that front line. So plenty of Night Goblins just kind of roaming the field, and all of these guys do have stock, so the Skaven aren't going to be seeing a whole lot in terms of inventory right now. And then just some Forest Goblin Spider Riders mixed in with those Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, and some more Orc Boar Boys on that flank. So a rather interesting greenskin army, definitely not what you expect to be seeing. But let's see how it's going to fare off. Both sides going to be really just, well, the greenskins probably don't want to be approaching too quickly. Honestly, bringing the Big Un here, probably expecting to see a lot more ranged on the Skaven side, not really going to be expecting the rush. I mean, Poison Wind is so strong, as well as just kind of a lot of just like Jezzails and stuff like that. So probably was expecting a bit more ranged, so the Big Un would have more time to force the Skaven out of their comfort zone. But instead, the Skaven going to be charging straight into the maws of the greenskins, and that is going to be limiting the time that the Big Un has to really kind of get its shots in. It doesn't really have any good targets either, because there's no Storm Vermin, like there's no Council Guard or anything very expensive. So the Big Un really isn't going to be able to generate a ton of value. They're just trying to target what it can. So it looks like we get, there's that Bound Scorch, a very nice cast at that, doing a bunch of damage to the Warlords Boys. Now, might have been confusing that with the 8-peak loonies, which the 8-peak loonies are the ones that you want to whittle down very quickly, because they do have that Fanatics, and here comes that charge. We get some more Fanatics. So all of these Night Goblins, it doesn't say it, but these are going to be Fanatics, because we're seeing those Fanatics cast there, but that is one of the things that do get hidden. So like you only see Night Goblins despite the fact that they are the ROR, so you really have to look at their unit card to know what they're doing. But the Skaven are quickly just charging through that front line. Night Goblins taking a bunch of, or the ROR Night Goblins are taking a bunch of damage, so they are getting them down below that 25% threshold for their units, and all of these Wolf Rats charging on in. Now they do have Gork'll Fix-It, reducing their speed, charge speed, and all of that, but it is not going to stop them from getting into all of these back units, and just everything is just getting taken down very quickly by on the greenskin side of things. The rusty arrows are getting routed off. So many units just getting pressured back as it's just all of the Skaven just kind of threading right on through all of the lines. And the clan rats, Skaven slaves, all the like, and then all the rat ogres have been able to trade pretty well. But that is still going to leave the big gun alive and well, and that Hellpit Abomination is going to be charged forward. It does have armor piercing bonus versus large, so it will be able to trade pretty well into that big gun. But the big gun, the more damage it takes, the more damage it will dish out, as we get a monster duel here. But the big gun is standing much taller than that Hellpit Abomination, and it has been able to so far dish out more damage than it's dealing, landing some mighty hits against that Hellpit. And the wall goes off as well, given that immune psychology to the greenskin formation, as everything is kind of just going to be lasting a little bit longer. But we have all these poison being in addition to these engagements, and we do get another scorch though going right through, hitting these night goblins, doing a lot of damage. Orc Boar Boys going to be routing off the field, as the Grey Seer really doing some nice work there, as we get another Gorkle Fix-It on that little blob, just trying to give the greenskins some time to kind of return to that fight. But that big gun is giving the Hellpit Abomination the business, as it is just doing so much damage. And I mean, the Gunner Runners are going to be right here giving some poison, but they are not going to be able to do a whole lot. And man, that Hellpit is just getting beat down so hard. But at this point, I don't think it's really going to matter, because there's really nothing left for the greenskins other than the big gun. I mean, all of the mobility is, I mean, everything's getting just chased off by the Skaven. There's just so much Skaven left in this little blob here. Plenty of like rat ogres, and like the assassins can be coming in as well, with like the warlock engineer. Just all of the mass from the rat ogres, I think, is just going to drag down the big gun once and for all. There's just, I mean, what is the big gun going to do here? There's just so many. Can it kill the entirety of the Skaven? I do not think so, especially the Hellpit is going to be pulling back, and the Hellpit does have regeneration as well. So just kind of sit back, relax, wait for a little bit of that healing to come its way, to get the cycle charges in and try and avoid any more hits from that big gun. There is still some units coming back, because Force Scouts, Spider Riders, Orc Boar Boys, the Night Goblin Shaman is still alive and well. Might be nice to try and get a Vindictive Glare into the back of the Hellpit, but now that big gun losing a lot of its armor, it is down to 90. Its weapon damage is up to 840, but that is not going to be enough to save it. It does rout, and that is going to be it, as it does shatter, and that is going to be army losses. And the Skaven cruise their way to a Game 3 victory. That is going to put Hand Samurai up 2-1 going into the fourth match. So we'll take a look at the after battle report, update the scorecard as well, as Hand Samurai takes the lead now after dropping that first game. And really, I think this was a idea from Dark Phoenix, but it did not pay off in the slightest. All of the Night Goblins in the front lines, as you can see, one of those, so there's one Fanatics there. This is just regular Night Goblins. So I may have just missed that Fanatics icon earlier on when I was going through the units. So only 2 loons with the 8 peak loonies and 1 Night Goblin Fanatics. The rest were just regular Night Goblins. And then, I mean, rest of the era. So just take a look at the values real quick. Not a whole lot there. Big Gun only got 1,300. It was dishing out some good damage, but then the tide kind of turned in the battle. And this thing is an expensive unit. I think it is over 3,000 in cost. So not coming even close to paying for itself in this fight. I'm not really sure what this greenskin army was expecting, though, from the Skaven. I think they were just really expecting a ranged build from the Skaven, in which case the Skaven wouldn't have really had anything to shoot at, and the big gun would have been able to just kind of fire into like the poison wind mortars or something like that. But in the end, that was not what the Skaven brought. They brought that full rush, Hellpit getting some damage in to that big gun, but overall not a whole lot of value on itself. The Wolfwrath, I mean, so many things were just very healthy. The Gunner Runners got a lot of value in between the two of them, the poison and the regular. And then just kind of going through the rest of the units. Assassin, Warlock, the Grey Seer actually got some nice damage in with like the Dreaded 13th and the other units, and then just the nice mass. But yeah, they just took the greenskin army apart very quickly there with that rush. So very well played on that side. But that is going to be it for Game 3. Let's get on into Game 4. Archaon sets out to prove to the Norskins just who the Chaos gods favor most, as we have Han Samurai commanding Chaos against Dark Phoenix's Norskins. So for the Chaos side of things, it is going to be rather heavy in the skirmish, as we have 4 Marauder Horse Masters in total. Pretty much expected for this matchup. It really does boil down to that skirmish phase. And we have some Chaos Knights with Archaon to support that skirmish as well. And these guys, 120 Bronze Shield, very strong cavalry unit. Really kind of able to tank that incoming fire from like the Norskin skirmishers. We also have Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, who has that flaming sword, really in case there is going to be skin wolves, giving that magic damage, fire damage, so pretty much bypassing physical resist and doing that additional damage to those regenerating units. We also have Burning Head against the lightly armored Norskin infantry, Standard Eye, and then Slayer of Kings to allow him to actually trade decently into Wulfric if he is there, or contend against Throg. For the rest of the forces, it is going to be Chaos Marauders. For the bulk of the front line, we do have some Chaos Marauders with great weapons, a pair of those. Marauders front ranks is going to be the Mirror Guard, 100 armor, silver shields, and immune to psychology to boot as well. So that is a very nice little addition there. We have some Chaos Spawn, 2 units of those. Monstrous units, plenty of mass. They have fear, and they are unbreakable. And that is really a very nice anchor for that front line. But they will take a lot of damage from the Norskin skirmishers, so that's a little interesting choices in that regard. But for the Norskin side, they are even heavier into the skirmish with all of the tools and then some. So we have horsemen, horse masters. So there's 4 horse masters in total, 2 horsemen. We have 3 Norskin ice wolves overall, and they do have frostbite, so they're able to reduce the speed of any unit when they are engaged in melee. So that's minus 36% speed. Really kind of just allow everything to get dragged down just that little bit better. And they do have base 15% missile resist for those units. And there's also the Beast of Tashdar, which are bonus versus large, and they have a 50% missile resist, so they will really be able to kind of just charge forth into the maws of that skirmish force and not really take all too much damage in that regard. Frontline is going to be, or I guess the infantry, not really much of a front line. The infantry is going to be all Marauders with great weapons, really kind of expecting to see some Chaos Warriors probably by the looks of things, and really they only have those Mirror Guard. Otherwise, I think the regular Marauders would have been the better choice here, and it is for the Lord Wulfric the Wanderer. He is going to be rolling in with all of his abilities, so he does have Bowseeker, we have Seafang, we have Fight or Die, and Hunter of Champions. And then for the spellcasting, it is going to be a Shaman Sorcerer of Metal with that Scroll of Shielding, giving a nice little bit of damage resist, 22% at that. We have Final Transmutation and Plague of Rust to reduce armor even further. And that is going to be the armies. So let's get things rolling as the skirmish phase is going to be getting underway, as both sides are just going to be kind of slowly plucking away. Norskins definitely have the advantage in terms of their mobility, and they need to play that advantage pretty heavily because they need to make sure that these horse masters get taken out of the fight, because in terms of a straight-on infantry, their infantry is going to lose, and it is going to lose hard. Because, like, they have the Mirror Guard, which, I mean, the Chaos Marauders with great weapons will do some decent damage back to them, but they have the Mirror Guard, they have both of those Chaos Spawn. They're just going to be able to take these guys down pretty heavily, so they need to win that mobility game, and they have started to take a little bit of damage. These horsemen have taken some, as have these horsemen on the other flanks, but the Horse Masters are really going to be the unit they have to worry about, and Norska is going to continue to slowly kind of kite away, playing to that advantage of the mobility game, trying to get their I guess their units into a good position, but all of these Horse Masters on Chaos side are going to be staying so very close to their Chaos Marauders, as well as the Chaos Knights on right here then. So all of these, like Norskin Ice Wolves, these Beasts of Tashdar, they're not going to be able to really stay engaged, especially with the Chaos Knights. I mean, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot to them, as they're going to be trying to kind of charge forward, kind of pressuring back Chaos. Hunter Champions does go down on Archaon, though, reducing his armor, melee defense, and speed. Trying to get a few shots into them, but there isn't really much of a strong follow-up. Chaos Knights are going to be charging forward, and really this might be a good opportunity for them to get a charge, but we're going to be getting a Burning Head, so no need to be charging there. It is going to be going right through those Chaos Marauders, and it is going to be doing a ton of damage, pretty much going to be breaking that front line. The Chaos Spawn charge in as well, doing a bunch of damage. I mean, these Marauders with great weapons are just getting torn to pieces so very quickly on as all the units collide. Wulfric does charge in, but his front line has already buckled before he could even get there, and I think Chaos is actually onto a very strong advantage. Even though Bounce power is in Norskin's favor right now. The entirety of the front line just buckled and broke like a twig before they could go too far, though a overcasted final transmutation does go down, hitting a lot of the units Chaos Spawn, these Chaos Marauders, but the Chaos Marauders do kind of pull forward, kind of getting Archaon and the rest of these units out of that little area of effect. But you're seeing more of the Norscan Ice Wolves are kind of getting routed off. They're not going to be able to trade too well. They're trying to get onto these Horse Masters, but the pressure being put on by the Chaos side is pretty strong right now. We do get a nice little Sea Fang going through the Chaos Marauders with great weapons, and that will cause them to rout, but in response is going to be a Burning Head looking to finish off even more of the infantry, and these Marauders are able to kind of pull forward, avoiding pretty much all of that incoming damage. But Wolfric the Wanderer has taken a lot of damage himself, and Archaon is still sitting very healthy, surrounded by Chaos Spawn, by the Mirror Guard, all very strong units, and this would be a fantastic target to get a final transmutation on, but it's going to be quite some time before we see another final transmutation. Balance power actually in Chaos's favor now, as just that break in the formation of the Norskins was just so quick and abrupt. It is really putting Norska on the back heel here, as they're just trying to continue kind of way. They have kind of gotten position behind the Chaos forces, so they are going to have that space to kind of pull back, as Archaon does get Hunter Champions popped on him, as Wolfric charges on forward, getting some hits into these Chaos Knights, and the Chaos Knights have taken quite a bit of damage themselves, as the Norscan Ice Wolves do charge in, trying to slow down Archaon even farther. Just going to be giving Wolfric a little time to kind of pull on back, though. The Flaming Sword of Ruin goes down, base missile damage, base weapon damage does go off, really kind of getting those stats of the Mirror Guard just a little bit higher, able to push off those Norscan Ice Wolves, and even these Marauder Horse Masters now not going to be able to last too long against Archaon, as things are looking pretty strong for Chaos here in this Game 4 match. And I think Hand Samurai has plenty of tools left, plenty of ammunition, plenty of mobility. All the Horse Masters sitting very nice on Chaos's side. Archaon's very healthy, not a whole lot of ammunition left, and really Wolfric is too low in health to really engage with Archaon at this point. And there's just, I mean, the Mirror Guard, there's so many of those left, and there's enough mass. The Chaos Spawn have taken a lot of damage so far from all of these Marauder Horse Masters, Horsemen, but overall I think it is still going to be all right for Chaos. I don't think there's any way back for Norska. They just don't have enough ammunition, especially in comparison to the Horse Masters on the other side. Hand Samurai has been very conservative in that regard. Well, looks like Dark Phoenix has been using a little bit more ammunition than maybe he would have liked to, and it's just going to be losing a lot of teeth in the late stage of this battle. And I just, don't think Norska has any way back in, as that balance power shifting all the way, and that is going to be army losses. Chaos does pull through, and that will be our series as well, as Hand Samurai takes it 3-1. So let's update the scorecard to finish out that series, and then we'll go over this last battle here real quick. So for the Norskins, all of the Ice Wolves not really getting a whole lot. These guys did some decent work. Beast Tashtar as well got pretty beaten down, and all of the Horse Masters, not say all, 2 of the Horse Masters did very well. 1,900 on those guys. Their horsemen not really all too great, but really though, that front line just it clashed with the Chaos side, and then it just disintegrated. The Chaos Spawn, the Burning Head, Archaon coming in there, that front line just crumbled to dust so very quickly. Shaman Sorcerer Metal got some value from that final transmutation, but just not enough time to really get some good value. And Wolfric himself, only 500 for a very expensive Lord on his Mammoth. Just not worth it at all. As for the Chaos side of things, the Chaos Spawn did well in that frontal engagement, and then all of the Horse Masters getting 800, 700, 600 on these guys. This was a pretty good value overall. They still had a bunch of ammunition left across the board. The Chaos Knights were probably the only unit that really took more damage than I think Samurai would have liked. Mirror Guard did pretty good, and then just that front line just kind of traded better into the Norskins, especially with all of it being Chaos Marauders versus like maybe Chaos Warriors or something like that. So really all of that armor piercing from the Marauders with great weapons on Norska's side really just wasn't going to be paying for itself too well. And then Archaon getting 1,100. Again, nothing too ridiculous there. It's just that initial clash, I think that was what it was that Norscan infantry just... It just disintegrated so fast. I was surprised to see how fast that infantry just left the field. And at that point, the Norskins didn't have any infantry support, and all of their skirmish cav was getting pretty depleted at that point. But that is going to be all she wrote for the series. Hand Samurai does take it 3-1, moving forward to that next round. But if you've already been looking at the bracket, you kind of know how that song and dance has gone for the rest of the bracket. And I think this might be my last Warhammer World Championship series. Everything from the round of 16 onward, I know has been either casted by myself or others or streamed live through a variety of other casters. So all of those games have been played. All of the future rounds are scheduled. We'll have Rubber Ducks on Friday for the bottom 4, so 8 through 5 for the places will be on his stream on Friday, and then on Saturday will be the finals, as Turin does do all of those games on Saturday. And that is pretty much going to be it. Might find another series or two for maybe early on in the playoff bracket, see if there's anything that hasn't been casted just yet. So we might have a few more series from the Warhammer World Championship, but otherwise it's going to be from the earlier rounds, round of 32 or round of 64, if I do find any to do out of those. But then we're going to be getting back to our regular casting schedule, just do some nice fun games from here on out. This tournament has been a blast casting. It has been far greater than anyone could have anticipated from the get-go. It's had some very great reception, and it's been a blast playing in it, casting it. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing this again the next time around we get it. Probably be another year before that happens, though, when Warhammer 3 comes out. But I'll be looking forward to that for sure. And again, thank you guys for watching the video. I do hope you all enjoyed. And as always, have a good one.